it's Jessica with Food Foundation, where we like to eat delicious food, use juicy movement, and heal naturally. In this video, we're going to talk about bone broth. What is it? How do you make it? What are some super quick recipes? And what are the benefits from consuming it? So what is bone broth? Is it different from meat stock? Let's not get too technical. It's all good for you. The only difference is bone broth, you're drinking the clear liquid that would be the broth, as opposed to meat stock is when you cook like an entire chicken and you're going to consume the meat and the broth like a big chicken soup. They both have benefits. With bone broth, you're gently boiling, barely a boil, simmering the bones so that they can release the collagen and the gelatin, which are so healing to the gut lining and to your tissues. Bone broth is super cheap because you can use the bones left over if you bake a whole chicken. If you buy bones, maybe the backs or the necks of chicken, they're super inexpensive. You can even use leftover chicken thighs or drumsticks that you would have baked and fed your family anyway. You can toss all of those bones into the broth and gently boil them to release all of the nutrients. I love making broth. It's super quick to make a meal, and it's different from using a bouillon cube because it's a concentrated cube full of extra sodium and MSG. Now, when you gently simmer the bones, they do release a natural monosodium glutamate, or MSG, and if you're extremely sensitive to it, you don't want to boil the bones for hours, for say 24 hours like you could boil a bone broth. You'd want to keep it nice and short so that you kept the MSG nice and small quantities. And the sodium is not added. You will add your own salt afterwards, and it would never be as much as a bought bouillon or a bought broth where they used a bouillon cube. So why would you make bone broth? Besides it being cheap and super healthy, it actually has very healing components for the body. So number one is gelatin. Have you ever wondered why they give you Jell-O in a hospital? Unfortunately, that Jell-O is probably made of sugar and garbage and won't help you heal. But when you make your own broth, you're breaking down the bones and releasing the gelatin that can help slow the body's process of aging. Who doesn't want to look younger and healthier? It will also release collagen, and collagen is needed in like 90% of the tissues of the body. It's extremely important. So the more gelatinous and the more collagen and meat stuck on the bones, the better. Bone broth is full of amino acids, which are the little building blocks that make up proteins, and many of them are super healing in the gut lining. Glutamine is one of those amino acids that's like candy for the gut cells of your intestinal lining, and it will help them heal if you're suffering from intestinal permeability or leaky gut. Glutamine also helps your body release GABA. GABA is one of those neurotransmitters that has a calming effect on the body. So when you have a nice soup for dinner made from bone broth, not only is it delicious and easy to digest, but it can have a very calming effect on the body. And it has glycine, which is another amino acid that helps you fall asleep. It also can help with wound healing. So all of these amino acids are what the body uses to repair itself, and that is why bone broth can be so healing. So how do you make it? The idea is to make a very gelatinous or jiggly stock. You've seen this when it sort of shakes like Jell-O. That is because the bones have been simmered long enough to release the collagen, release the gelatin, and they're forming this nice congealed mass. The fat will naturally rise to the top. If that really bothers you, you can remove that top layer so that it's a lower fat broth. But that fat will also have many essential fatty acids which are healing to the body. So when you heat it back up, it will just get mixed into the broth and it won't probably bother you as much. The idea is to get as many bones as you can, at least 3 pounds of bones. You can now order bones or get bones at the grocery store. They'll have chicken backs. I've even seen chicken feet. Chicken feet are very gelatinous, so they will definitely give you a jiggly broth. They'll have sometimes chicken heads, sometimes drumsticks or wings have a lot of the gelatinous bits and the collagen in the little wingtips. And you can make them for dinner, say drumsticks, and then save them. What I like to do is put all of the bones when we're done from dinner into a Ziploc bag. So you can collect your drumsticks, your chicken thighs, maybe leftover pork chop bones, beef bones, whatever bones you have from different cuts of meat into the bag. You can also mix different vegetables in. So if you have, say, onion ends, celery ends, this is the time to save all of those leftover bits so that you're not using your good onions that you can use in a recipe. Use all of the ends and the bits and the pieces. Put them into your Ziploc and then throw it in the freezer, and after a week or two you'll accumulate enough bones so that you don't have to go buy 3 to 5 pounds of bones. So using a slow cooker allows you more freedom, but you can also do it in a pot. You want to cook it for at least 4 to 6 hours at a nice slow simmer, and if you're in a slow cooker, let it go 12, 16, even 24 hours. Literally just let it keep simmering until you're ready to use it. When you're ready to use it, you'll simply strain out the water through any type of filter that will just catch the little bits. If you added different onion ends, you don't want to eat the onion end now that it's all nice and soggy, or the little bone bits, or any of the little herbs. You might have added peppercorns, or cardamom pods, or bay leaves, maybe clove. You can really add whatever you like. When you're thinking about vegetables like carrots and sweeter vegetables, remember that they are going to make your broth sweet. So in a 6-hour boil, no problem at all. That will be delicious. But if you let it go 24, even 36 hours, it could get a little extra sweet. So it's better to think of things like celery, parsley stems, onions, garlic, and be careful of the cabbages and all of the brassica family, or the crucifers, things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. They can be very off-tasting. So once you've strained your broth, if it's hot right at that moment because you just pulled it out of the slow cooker or the pot, that is amazing, and you can just heat it up on the stove and add a bunch of veggies and you'll have an amazing soup. Don't forget to add the salt. You will never add as much salt as a soup that you would get in a restaurant or a box of soup. So this would be considered a low sodium food compared to one of those boxes. Even if the box said low sodium, they're just not using regular salt and they're using other components. But you want to add salt to taste so that it's delicious, so that you want to make it again. One of my favorite recipes is to make a tomato soup by just taking tomato paste and adding it into the broth, and of course seasoning it with salt so it's good to the taste, and maybe some Italian seasoning, maybe some oregano or basil, garlic, something that might give you the flavors of an Italian tomato soup. You might like to make it more of a Mexican flavor in that tomato soup, and then you can add cumin and a chili pepper and avocado and cilantro. You might want to make it more of a Hungarian flavor and add paprika and maybe a little sour cream in the end to make it nice and creamy. You can also use the broth in rice or risotto just to beef up the nutrition of that carb that you're making. You can use it to make a stir fry or really add it to almost anything. And I love how you can heat it up and add ramen noodles and have almost an instant lunch. So I hope that sounds easy, doesn't sound too overwhelming, and inspires you to try a batch of bone broth. If you like this video, hit the like button, share it with anybody who's trying to make their own bone broth, and be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you get all of my videos right as they're released. Thanks for watching.